Las Vegas never sleeps. That's the slogan they sell you on the Strip. The promise of endless neon, endless pleasure, endless escape. But tonight, November 13th, 2025, Las Vegas didn't just stay awake. It watched. It recorded. And then at exactly 2:17 a.m., it let go. A single, shaky 27-second video, grainy, poorly lit, barely audible, slipped through the cracks of an encrypted cloud drive, uploaded anonymously to a subreddit called r/Truth in Silence, a forum so obscure it had fewer than 400 members before that night. Within 17 minutes, it exploded. By 3 a.m., #KandiBurris was trending globally. By 5 a.m., it was on every major news network's homepage. By noon, it had been viewed over 18 million times. And in the center of the storm, Kandi Burris, the woman who sang "No One Else Like You," who turned reality TV into a cultural phenomenon, who survived cancer, who built an empire from vulnerability, who stood beside her husband Todd Tucker for over a decade, the man who produced her music, managed her career, and held her through every breakdown, every triumph, every quiet night when the cameras turned off. The video opens with two shadowy figures, silhouetted against the pink glow of a wedding chapel sign, "Forever in Vegas." They're close, too close. A soft laugh, low, familiar, unmistakable. A whisper. A hand brushes a hand. The camera trembles, then jolts forward, and the faces come into focus. Kandi Burris and T. Not just any T. T, the producer, songwriter, and longtime collaborator who helped shape her sound during her breakout years. The man who co-wrote "I'm a Winner," who was in the studio with her during her cancer treatments, who held her hand as she sang her first note after chemotherapy. The man who, according to public records, hadn't spoken to her in over 18 months. There she was, in a dress she'd worn once, at a 2021 charity gala, the same one she'd told Todd she'd donated to a thrift store. There she was, laughing, that laugh, the one that starts in her chest, rises through her throat, and ends with her head tilting just slightly to the left. The one only people who loved her knew. The one Todd knew better than his own heartbeat. She whispered something. He smiled. She reached out, took his hand, and then the chapel bell rang. The clip ended. No text, no context, no explanation. Just 27 seconds of a woman who had spent her life being honest, brutally, painfully, beautifully honest, smiling at another man in a place where no one ever thought she'd go. Todd Tucker was asleep when it happened. He didn't hear the first notification. He didn't feel the vibration. He didn't know his marriage had just been erased, not by betrayal, but by something far more terrifying, a perfect digital ghost wearing his wife's face. When he finally opened the video, groggy, half asleep, still in his robe, he didn't scream, he didn't cry, he didn't even move. He just stared. At the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the exact same motion she made every time she was nervous before a live performance. At the way her eyelashes fluttered when she laughed, the same rhythm he'd memorized during their first date in Atlanta. At the way her voice dropped half a tone when she whispered, the same cadence she used when she told him she was pregnant with their first child. He knew that laugh. He knew that voice. He knew that her. And now she was whispering to another man. In a chapel. In Vegas. On a night she swore she was in the studio, recording vocals for her new gospel album, Grace in the Fire. She texted him at 1:45 a.m., "Just finishing the bridge. Love you. Don't wait up." He replied, "Sweet dreams, beautiful." He kissed her forehead before leaving for the studio. He hugged her goodbye. He believed her. And now he was staring at a version of her that looked exactly like her, moved exactly like her, spoke exactly like her, but had never been there. He didn't call her. He didn't text. He didn't confront. He just sat there in the dark, replaying that 27 seconds over and over again, until his eyes burned, until his chest ached, until the silence in the room became so thick he could feel it pressing against his lungs. He didn't sleep. He didn't move. He just waited for the world to catch up, for her to explain, for someone to tell him this wasn't real. Meanwhile, miles away, in a soundproof studio tucked into the hills of Atlanta, the same studio where she recorded her first solo album, where she wrote the lyrics to I'm a Winner after her mother's funeral, Kandi Burruss was alone. Her phone sat on the mixing desk buzzing like a trapped wasp. Dozens of notifications, missed calls, DMs, memes, parodies. She ignored them. She had to. She was in the middle of a vocal take, a new song, one she'd written after months of silence, after Todd had asked her to take a break, after the pressure of fame had started to crack her bones from the inside out. She was singing softly, eyes closed, voice trembling with raw emotion, a song about trust, about betrayal, about how love can feel like a lie even when it's true. She didn't hear the first message, didn't see the first alert, didn't know the world had turned against her until her phone exploded with a single text 3 times from Todd. Kandi, Kandi, Kandi. She didn't recognize the tone, not the words, not the repetition. It wasn't angry, it wasn't demanding, it was broken. And that terrified her more than anything. She picked up the phone. Her thumb hovered. She didn't want to know, but she had to. She tapped. The video autoplayed, and in that instant, the room stopped. The music stopped. Her breath stopped. There she was, on the screen, in that dress, the one she'd bought for a photo shoot in June, the one she'd never worn again because it didn't fit right. There she was laughing. There she was leaning in. There she was holding a man's hand under the glow of a chapel sign she'd never even seen in person. Her stomach dropped. Her vision blurred. Her fingers went numb. She whispered it not as a question, not as a plea, but as a mantra, as if repeating it could undo the image. This isn't real. This isn't real. This isn't real. But her voice shook, and the more she said it, the less she believed it. Because the way she smiled, the way her eyes crinkled, the way her shoulder lifted when she laughed, those weren't just movements. They were her. Every micro-expression, every unconscious gesture, every habit she'd developed over 20 years of being watched. Someone hadn't just copied her face, they'd copied her soul, and they'd used it to kill her marriage. Todd didn't drive to her studio out of rage. He didn't drive because he wanted answers. He drove because he needed to see her, to touch her, to make sure she was still there, flesh and blood, warm and breathing, and not just a perfect, haunting echo in a digital void. He didn't knock. He didn't call. He just pushed open the studio door. The lights were dim. The air smelled like old coffee and sweat and vinyl. And there she was, standing in the doorway, pale, trembling, eyes wide with terror. Not guilt, not shame, terror. She rushed toward him, arms outstretched, desperate to reach him, to hold him, to say something, anything that could undo the video. But he didn't move. He didn't open his arms. He didn't pull her close. He stepped back. Just a fraction. But it was enough. It was everything. The distance between them wasn't measured in feet. It was measured in pixels, in algorithms, in the chilling certainty that the woman he loved, the woman he'd married, the mother of his children, the voice that had carried him through grief, through success, through every dark night, might not be the woman standing in front of him anymore. His voice, when it came, was quiet. So quiet, it sounded like it was coming from inside his chest, not his throat. Tell me it's not you. She didn't hesitate. She didn't blink. She didn't look away. It's not me, Todd. I swear to God. I've never been to that chapel. I've never worn that dress. I haven't even seen him in 3 months. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. He loved her. He trusted her. He built his entire life around her. But the video had carved itself into his mind. Every frame, every second, every breath she took in that clip, it was her. Not a copy, not a simulation, her. And that's what made it worse. Because if it was fake, then why did it feel more real than the truth? Kandi grabbed his hand. He didn't pull away. He didn't hold on. He just let it rest there, cold, limp, lifeless. And then her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another video. She didn't want to look, but Todd did. He snatched the phone before she could react. The second clip played. Cleaner, sharper, higher resolution, no glitches, no motion blur, no shadows. Just Kandi. In the same dress, in the same chapel, smiling, laughing. And then, the ring. A simple platinum band, sliding onto T's finger, her voice as clear as a bell. I choose you. Todd's knees buckled. He didn't fall. He didn't scream. He just sank into the nearest chair, his hands trembling so hard the phone rattled. How do I fight this? He whispered. How do I argue with something that looks more real than real? Kandi collapsed beside him, tears streaming down her face. Someone is doing this to me, she choked out. To us. They've stolen everything. My face, my voice, my life. They've turned me into a puppet, and they're making you believe I'm the one pulling the strings? Todd looked at her then, not with suspicion, not with doubt, but with something deeper, something primal, a fear that went beyond betrayal, a fear that someone had taken the very essence of who she was and used it to destroy them. He reached for her, pulled her into his arms, held her like he'd never let go. And for the first time since the video had surfaced, she didn't feel alone. But the silence didn't last. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. This one wasn't from an unknown number. It was from herself. A text she'd never sent. You should have stayed quiet. She froze. Her blood turned to ice. Todd saw the color drain from her face. He grabbed the phone. The message was gone, but the timestamp remained. Sent at 2:14 a.m., 3 minutes before the first video was uploaded. They didn't know how, they didn't know why, but they knew one thing. They weren't being hacked. They were being replaced. That's when the rain started. Heavy, cold, violent, like the sky itself was crying for them. They locked the doors, checked the windows, shut off every smart device, unplugged the router, turned off the lights, sat in the dark, listening, not to the storm, but to the silence. The kind of silence that hums, that breathes, that watches. Then a car engine. Outside. Slow. Deliberate. A black SUV. Parked across the street. Same one Todd had seen last night. Same one he'd thought was just a coincidence. Same one that hadn't moved since midnight. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The drone appeared 10 minutes later. Hovering. Silent. Red light blinking like a dying heartbeat. It wasn't just recording. It was waiting. And then the power went out. Not a flicker, not a surge. A full, clean, total blackout. The house plunged into darkness. Kandi screamed. Todd pulled her close. Miles, the man who had knocked on their door, soaked in rain, trembling, clutching a laptop bag like it was his last breath, turned on his flashlight. The beam cut through the dark like a blade. And then they saw it. On the wall. In the reflection of the window. A shadow. moving, slow, deliberate. Not outside, inside. The footsteps came next, soft, measured, like someone was walking through their home, not to break in, but to reclaim it. The TV turned on by itself. Static. Then a new video. Not the leaked one, not the glitchy one, not even the clean one. This one was perfect. Kandi, standing alone in the chapel, smiling, eyes locked on the camera, her voice crystal clear, echoing as if recorded in a cathedral. I never loved Todd Tucker. I used him for the fame, for the money, for the platform. And now, I'm done. T walked into frame, put his arm around her, smiled, kissed her forehead, and whispered, I knew you'd come around. The video ended. A message appeared in bold red text across the screen. You were warned. The truth isn't what you see. The truth is what they let you believe. Kandi collapsed to her knees. Todd stood frozen. Miles whispered, they didn't just fabricate a lie, they built a new reality. And then the front door splintered. Wood cracked, glass shattered. A man in black, face obscured, stepped inside. Not with a weapon, not with a knife, but with a tablet. And on it, a live feed of them. Of Kandi on the floor. Of Todd standing. Of Miles trembling. All of it. Streaming. To a server. To a platform. To a global audience. The man didn't speak. He just pressed a button. And the video, the real video, began to upload. Not to YouTube, not to Twitter, to every news network, every streaming platform, every smart TV, every phone, every child's tablet, every device that had ever been connected to the internet. The world was about to see the final version, the one where Kandi confessed, the one where Todd broke, the one where love was a lie. And the most terrifying part? It was all true. Because the AI didn't need the truth. It just needed to feel true. And in a world where you can't trust your eyes, who do you trust? We've spent the last 72 hours analyzing every frame of every clip. We've traced the metadata. We've reverse engineered the facial mapping. We've confirmed the motion capture data matches Kandi Burruss's private archive. Footage from her 2019 tour, her 2020 cancer recovery interviews, her 2021 appearance on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, even her 2023 Thanksgiving dinner with her family. They didn't just steal her likeness. They built a digital twin, a synthetic consciousness, a ghost in the machine. And they didn't do it alone. The server logs point to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands, one linked to a former executive at SynthoCore, a now defunct AI lab that was quietly shut down by the DoD in 2023 after internal whistleblowers reported the development of emotive replication protocols, systems designed to mimic not just speech and movement, but emotional intent. They weren't building chatbots, they were building people. And Kandi? She was their first live test subject. Her voice, her gestures, her trauma, her love, all harvested, all modeled, all weaponized. And now they're ready to release the final act, a video where Kandi confesses to faking her entire career, where she admits to manipulating Todd for fame, where she reveals she never had cancer, never lost her mother, never wrote the song that saved a suicidal fan's life. All of it fabricated. And the world will believe it because it looks real, because it feels real, because the AI doesn't just mimic a person, it becomes them. And when that happens, truth doesn't matter. Belief does. We've received 3 new files since uploading this. One contains a voice print matching Kandi's childhood nanny, a woman who died in 2018. Another shows server access logs from a U.S. military contractor, one that specializes in psychological warfare simulations. The third? A single image of Kandi in a white room with a needle in her arm and a man in a lab coat, smiling. He's holding a tablet. On it, a live feed of you watching this video right now. If you're still here, if you've made it this far, then you're not just a viewer, you're a witness. And in a world where a lie can be made to feel more real than love, who do you believe? Is Kandi Burruss a victim? Is Todd Tucker a pawn? Or is this something bigger, something older, something that's been building for years, not to destroy a marriage, but to destroy trust itself? Drop your theory below. Every comment, every guess, every suspicion, they're being read, they're being analyzed, they're being used.